Wow, I was not expecting this. Now, granted, the guy mentioned you get more high from it, but then when I read about it, that was like, oh my God, that explains what I experienced. Now, I took the same number of inhalations when I got home as I would from a typical Delta 9 medical cannabis dispensary THC. I didn't feel uncomfortable or weird or anything like that, but man, was I feeling it pretty darn strong. Functional, very functional, but it was, oh my. Hemp really can get you very high. Hey, everybody, it's Dr. David. So, I have been getting questions about some of the other cannabinoids that are derived from hemp that are very regularly now being sold at CBD type shops, smoke shops. And the hemp industry in the state of Florida, which is also in line with the laws of the federal government based upon the Farm Bill of 2018, has said that only product that must be done through a dispensary is those that have 0.3% THC. But as I'll talk about in a bit, lots of products don't have this, but still have lots of psychoactive effects. Now, I'm also going to be discussing my experience as both a speaker and cannabis expert at the recent hemp it's a hemp trade show called Kushcon that was here in Tampa, and it's the largest trade show in Florida. And Kush.com is really considered the marketplace for retailers to learn about the different types of products and have them available to them. I'm also going to share my experience with some of the samples that I received at this convention. So first of all, at Kushcon, it was really interesting because there were over 150 different vendors that were there to show off their different wares, and most of them were, there's some were clothing, Divine, and you get every now and then you get the tie dye shop and everything like this. But most of these were of all of these different types of hemp derived products. Some of the companies have products that are out of state as well, so they also did talk about their more THC types of products. But really, the only thing on site were hemp derived products. Now, this was held at the Tampa Convention Center, did get quite a bit of media coverage as well. But there, first, one of the things, Nikki Fried, who is our current agricultural commissioner and who was running for governor on the Democratic side as a candidate, she was the keynote speaker at Saturday, and she was on one of the panels that was talking about the legal status of cannabis in the state of Florida going forward. Now, I personally gave two lectures, actually more of like panels. One was hemp and cannabis for pain relief, and one was cannabis as medicine for all ages. Okay. Now, I also gave three different interviews while there. People just kind of came up. They had heard about me and they wanted to get me on camera. So that was kind of cool. One was a live stream. So Gary Stein, who I recently did an hour interview with him for NORML, which is the national organization for the reform of marijuana laws. He was actually doing a live stream throughout this entire thing. He get his organization. So he actually had me on for a few minutes, but actually Nikki Fried then came over. And so I graciously stepped aside and let Nikki take over after that. So I guess I opened for Nikki Fried in a way. I gave an interview on a television series called Cannabis Empire, which provides a look into the world's fastest growing industry. That's what their tagline is. And it was interesting because I was told that I was going to be talking for just a couple of minutes, but they had a lot of questions for me because of my pediatric experience, and it became a rather extended interview. And that was really nice to kind of get my words out there. And this is supposedly being turned into, I think it's on Netflix, one of the streaming services that it's going to be out on. So that's kind of cool. And of course, when we get it, we will announce about it. But I was also interviewed by a new medical dispensary who's coming to Florida, and they were just kind of wanting to talk more about pediatrics as a whole, because that's something that this company was more really trying to lean on. Kind of wanted to pick my brain on it, but they asked if they would do it on camera. So also, as I mentioned at the end of this video, I will talk about some of my experiences from the products that I learned about and I had tried. And also, because I am a pediatric tumor survivor, I do qualify for the state cannabis program, and that's how I am able to talk not with experience, not just about these hemp-derived products, but about dispensary-derived products as well. Okay, now first of all, I want to talk about what I learned about these not new to the world, but new to me, cannabinoids. Now, as I had mentioned before, as long as the product does not have greater than 0.3% THC, they are allowed to be sold as long as it's derived from hemp. Now, this was kind of interesting because, first of all, even THC products, they had a 5 milligram gummy. Now, it was the size of a marshmallow, but because there was so much more in it, overall, it was less than 0.3% of dry weight of THC, and it was a 5 milligram gummy. And so, that's kind of getting in line with what the state has. But again, 0.3%, that's the loophole, and that's what it was. And this is only for Delta 9 THC. That's the active ingredient that's in cannabis. We'll talk in a minute about all of these other derivatives. Now, there were some that I had heard of before, things like Delta 8, Delta 10. I had some experience with Delta 8 in the past. For some reason, this doesn't seem to be available at the state dispensaries anymore. I'm not clear as to why that, but I have not been able to find them for a while. But there were other cannabinoids, such as THCP, THC-o, and HHC. I had not heard of any of these before I walked in the doors of this place, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit more. Now, there was a vendor who would give me some samples, which I'll talk about, and he had actually said to me at the time, though, that this particular product, it gave you a high that was somewhere between what Delta 8 and Delta 9, and then there was this other, and that was called HHC. And then there was this other THCP, and he says it'll get you more high than Delta 9. And I'm thinking to myself, you can say that? Right? I mean, you would think that that's just not something that you would just say to somebody randomly. He didn't actually know who I was, Could have been from the feds, I don't know, but the state. But no, this is, I guess, the lingo that's being talked about at hemp shops. As long as it doesn't have that 0.3% or more of Delta 9 THC, I guess it's open season. One does have to be 21 to purchase like alcohol, but yeah, obviously we know other people can get a hold of these as well. Um, Now, again, I kind of walked away from that experience just thinking, well, wow, okay, well, I guess we'll see what this is like when I get home, because he did give me some of these samples. Now, I'm sharing with you this information so that you know, whether it's for you or for your, maybe a child of yours that maybe is getting a hold of these things, what these products actually are about. I am not advocating for the use of any of them. There has been very little research done of these things, and especially those that are more intoxicated than THC. Who knows what that could do to a brain, especially a developing brain that develops up until 22 years of age. So again, maybe I will feel more comfortable with them in the future when there's research out, but there isn't much now. Okay, now I'm going to do a little screen share with you here. Share, click share. There we go. Now, these are the different THC analogs, and Delta 9 THC, again, that's what we mostly have from what we're getting from regular marijuana, cannabis, medical cannabis. Now, you'll hear about Delta 8, Delta 9, Delta 10, and I'm going to show you. So this is the actual biochemical, this is the chemistry, the molecule of the different cannabinoids, okay? And so every time that you see an end here or one of these like points, that is a carbon. Now, it is mainly these carbons that interact with our endocannabinoid receptors. Remember, those are the receptors that we have inside of us, and that will affect how long it stays attached to the endocannabinoid, how strongly it has any effect. Now, Delta 9 THC. So if you can see here, there is this double line right here. That is the 9th position. Delta 8 is in this position over here. Delta 10 is in this position over here, but you'll see that everything else is the same about them. Now, THC 0, which is also called, I have to look this one up, THC-o, not THC 0, excuse me. It is THC acetate ester. And basically what you'll see here is there's some differences in the chemistry here being put on here. THCV. Now, this is an interesting one because THC is actually an appetite suppressant. And most of the time we talk about, especially Delta 9 THC, are appetite stimulators, but this is actually one that is an appetite suppressant. And so some people who get the munchies, who may get too much of the munchies, can actually find cannabinoids. This is even in dispensaries here that has some extra THCV as part of the strain, and that can be helpful. Now, this one, THCP, and this is the one that I mentioned is actually considerably more intoxicating. You can see here that this is a longer carbon chain than the rest of these here. And again, it's these carbons that are interacting with it. So this is probably the reason why this is a more intoxicating form. Okay, so let me stop my screen sharing there. Okay, so Now, before I go into the details of explaining my experiences, I did want to invite you to please subscribe to this YouTube channel, hit notifications if you want to be notified when it's here. Please share it with other people. If you like what you're hearing, please share this and other videos with other people. Okay. Now, the hemp-derived cannabinoids that you can get. So this is based upon some research that I did recently. So this Delta 10 that I was talking about, this is approximately a quarter as intoxicating as Delta 9 THC. Delta 8 is twice that, so it's about half of intoxicating as what you would find in regular marijuana. Now, this one called HHC, hexahydrocannabinol. Pardon me, that's not right. Hexahydrocannabidiol. No, I said that wrong again. I will get these are tough words. Hexahydrocannabinol. There we go, HHC. Now, this it can be made by a completely synthetic route, okay? But because it has less than 0.3%, that's why it's being sold. But this is a hydrogenated Delta 8. So that's what makes it synthetic, the hydrogenation. So thinking about hydrogenated oils, hydrogenated. Okay. Now this HHC is supposed to be about 75% the potency of THC. Now, this thc-o, this is the acetate. This is one that is completely synthesized. It's a synthetic product, but it is 2 to 3 times more intoxicating than than the Delta 9 THC. And some people do actually report this as being hallucinogenic. Okay. And then there's THCP, tetrahydrocannabiforol. Okay, that's where the P is for pH. And that is being reported as having 10 to 30 times the intoxicating effects, the effects in the cannabinoids receptors as Delta 9 marijuana-based THC. Okay, so now what was my experience? Now, for the HHC, now it was interesting, and again, because this was a trade show, and they want obviously the retailers to know about the product, they were giving this stuff kind of out like candy, literally, especially the gummies. Okay, so wow, I mean, just to see what people were walking around and you're smelling people vaping and all of this stuff, and they even had flour that was not just most CBD flour. They had flour that was that was like modified for more CBG and stuff like that. So people were walking around with this. I mean, I saw bushels and bushels, and even if you look at that picture from before when I gave the in terms of me giving the lecture, you'll see that there are all those cannabis plants in front of me. I've definitely never taken a picture in front of a bunch of cannabis plants before, especially in a formal setting. Now, what was my experience with HHC? Now, yeah, as I said, it was mentioned to be as intoxicating. They said between Delta 8, Delta 9, a little bit more. Now, I found it to be similar to what I've experienced with Delta 9 THC. And I also found it to last approximately as long. The product that I particularly tried did seem very similar in taste and look to a typical medical cannabis-based dispensary. Now, my experience with THCP, wow, I was not expecting this. Now, granted, the guy mentioned you get more high from it, but then when I read about it, that was like, oh my God, that explains what I experienced. Now, I took the same number of inhalations when I got home as I would from a typical Delta 9 medical cannabis dispensary THC. I didn't feel uncomfortable or weird or anything like that, but man, was I feeling it pretty darn strong. Functional, very functional, but it was there. It really was there. And, but the weird thing for me is that I took it at 6 p.m. after I got home. At midnight, I was still feeling it, which is not something that I usually experience when using Delta 9 THC from dispensaries. But here's the thing. I woke up the next morning and I was still feeling it. And it was really till about 2 o'clock that into the afternoon, 20 hours later, before I wasn't feeling the effects. Now, of course, that's would be important for somebody to know, especially if they thought they were just taking something for the evening to chill out and they were going to be fine the next day. It may not be that way for all people. Now, the one that I used also had an artificial taste. Now, I do want to point out that as I've experienced with other strains of cannabis, the first time that I take a strain, I often feel it stronger. And I have not taken this again. I don't really want to take this again because, again, I just don't know exactly what I was putting into my body. Who knows what could the effects of 10 to 30 times stronger effect on the endocannabinoid receptor have on somebody longer term? Okay, when more research comes out, again, I'll certainly give it another look. But the fact that this made me feel so long, it just didn't seem right to me. But This was one of the products that I actually had received. You can see here, and it says itself as a THCP product. So this is one of one, and you'll see down below that it actually says that the name of the product there that you can see there is called Skittles. And so of course, who are they attracting this to? This is going to be more attractive potentially for kids. And this was one of the I tried the other product from the same company, but there was a couple other things here on this package that kind of caught my eye. Now it says here, this product is derived from industrial hemp, and it is compliance with HR2, which is the agricultural component of the from Act of the 2018, the Farm Bill, as I mentioned. Do not use this product in any manner not recommended by a doctor. Well, that's interesting because these are being sold retail. What doctor are they talking about? Who's checking in on that? I doubt many people when it goes into these CB shops who are doing that. Now, it says here, this Delta 8 dispensable may affect blood pressure, heart rate, and or intraocular pressure in some people. Doesn't say which way it goes, but it says it may affect it. Okay, at least putting there. But also, if you have any known heart, blood pressure, or eye pressure similarities, do not use this product unless recommended by a doctor. Okay, that's kind of a nice thing to say. But here's the interesting thing about it. The ingredients in this listed are THCP, THC-o, and botanical terpenes. So it refers to itself as a Delta 8 product, but it doesn't actually say that there's any Delta 8 in it. That's interesting as well. Now, it does go on to say that there was a gram in here that it says no MCT oil. So some people may know that's a coconut oil that some people don't like. Most people prefer to have a hemp-derived or cannabis-derived oil. It's not cut, so that's good. And it does say it's 100% cannabis-derived. So that is good. Again, I think that the one that I had that had this artificial flavor, because it just tasted so fruity, weirdy. But I know that they can add more terpenes to do that. And again, as we've known with Juuls and other nicotine type of things, they put these flavorings in order to kind of make it more of that youthful type of thing, which again, what would this potentially be doing? Okay. Now, as I said, now here are what my concerns are. Most of the products have not been tested for short or long-term use. CBD and THC has, right? So we know what we're getting from products that are CBD based and those from the dispensary. And again, products that are synthetic, gosh, that just, whenever I hear synthetic, and that's true for everything, as a holistic doctor, I kind of want to know what they're talking about there and not concerned. I mentioned in terms of the effects on developing brains, these are products as food-based products, more agricultural products. They're just not as regulated. So there is a buyer beware. Some of these companies will have, now this one doesn't, but it does. You can actually see this little this QR code, and if you take it to it, they're supposed to show you something about the product. Sometimes it just takes you to their website. Other ones, they actually take you to the third-party testing, so you can actually see what is in it, both purity and accuracy. And that's, of course, something that we should demand in every product that we put into our body. So my main wrap on this is to be cautious with these new products if you're willing to try them. As for any of these types of products, any form of cannabinoid, work with an experienced provider who knows about them, who can counsel you on them, who can give you good guidance. All right, so that's a little bit different take, especially compared to some of the videos that I've been putting out recently. But I hope you learned something. And again, please share this along with other people who you think it may help. Have a great day. If you like what you have heard, hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you next time.